It's really late and I'm so tired right now. But I stayed up and I had some really good like bonding conversations with a couple of the girls. So, um, which by the end of it, it was really strange because usually I'm the one who talks people to sleep and then wakes up later and or even talks people to sleep and then asks in the morning, hey, what was the last thing I said that you remember? And then realized that I had talked for like an hour after they fell asleep. And so I started like dozing off and they were talking about like really big philosophical questions. And I was like, uh, but, um, but it was okay. They were cool about it. Cause my brain couldn't go that far right now. Um, which usually when I'm really tired, I get like hypersensitive half the time, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. I'll get hypersensitive, and where like my brain will just go so fast, will think of so many things, and like I come up with like more interesting points. But anyways, so my day it started out where we went to back to Chiang Mai University, but we went to the business college, and we listened to a few of the professors and one of the assistant professors give lectures about business. And I wrote down a little bit. The first one was really interesting because it was about like women in Thailand going into being CEOs. The other two were completely over my head. Like, I didn't know the vocabulary, I didn't know what they were talking about, I didn't understand the relevance. And it wasn't a language barrier thing in the sense that it was a Thai person speaking English. It was a language barriers thing in a sense of they were talking in business language and I'm a biology major. Like, that was the language barrier. And then I found out later that a lot of people felt the same way, that they just spent too much time focusing on the methodology, especially the second speaker. He had been questioned on some of his methods and he did not understand the questions and kind of proved us the way he did his methodology. Like, he proved one side, but he didn't like go back and test really the other side to see like if what he found out was true in the opposite. And so it was really obvious that like his research he did not do. Like, he came up with the idea, but he had like undergrads and stuff, but his name was the only name on the paper. And I learned that that happens a lot, like especially in America, like when grad students are expected to work with professors on individual research projects where they end up getting an idea from a professor and the professor says, oh, do all of this research, and then they give the professor the research and then the professor writes on it, but they don't actually do the research. And then the students who actually conducted the research aren't acknowledged because it wasn't their idea. So that really sucks, and it was really obvious that this guy hadn't conducted his own research because he didn't even know how to explain some of the research processes, like collecting data, because he didn't do it. So that was a little odd. But I mean, it seems like in the business world, that's totally acceptable to have someone else do your dirty work. It's like, oh, well, I have better things to do, and that's too time consuming, so I'm going to pawn it off on someone else who doesn't have better things to do. So it's completely acceptable, even though it's complete crap. Anyways, so the first guy talked about he focused on 3 points. They called the 3 pillars: the economic performance, environmental aspect, and sociological performance of like small businesses. Oh, okay. And someone pointed out that Thai is female in character aspects within businesses, while within America it's very like male oriented. And by that they don't mean like it's actually like ran more by guys than girls. That's not what that means at all. They mean that like character traits. Like in Thailand, a lot of the businesses the business owners, like they have a lot of like caring and nurturing spirits, which are usually associated with women. While in America, like a lot of businesses are seen as like, get out of my way or I'm going to step on you, like very aggressive, very in your face, very competitive, which is seen as more like masculine features. While in Thailand, they're more thoughtful about the environment. They're more, which America's, getting that way, but we're still very much like, get out of the way. So it was an interesting study about like femininity in business. I said that wrong, but stuff like that. And what was another point that was brought up? Something that I brought up, but I don't remember what it was. But it was just something about males and females in business, and it was really interesting. Executive gender differences, firms, risks, and performance. So he talked about like he also talked about the risks that were associated with women being CEOs. Well, like in America, a lot of female CEOs are seen as like they have to be aggressive, like they have to be hard asses, because if they're not, then they're going to get stomped over. They're not going to be taken seriously. But there are serious repercussions to that, because like if there's a CEO who makes $300,000 a year and who's also a mom, but she doesn't, she's like, well, I love my kids, but I only see them on weekends because I'm a businesswoman. I know I'm a working woman. And then that affects the other women in her company, because people say, oh, she can do that, then the other women can do that. And then they end up getting crappier benefits. And you would think that like having a female CEO, they'd be more understanding. But it seems like what usually ends up happening is that if there's a female CEO, and especially if they have kids or they're married, they're very much like, well, my family and business don't mix in America. They're like, they're completely separate. And then the women who need like baby leave, who are making like $40,000 or less a year, don't get enough time off, and they don't get any pay stuff to subsidize that. The fact that they're having a baby, which America just doesn't do in general, and a lot of countries do, or even just giving them like paid time off. I've never heard of anyone getting paid time off for like baby leave, at least no more than like a week. And so like these strong women going to be CEOs actually end up hurting companies, and women end up quitting because they're so much harder on them than guys, because they're afraid they won't be taken seriously. And that's in America. Now in Thailand, they, even though they still have a lot less women CEOs, there are more women that are pursuing it. And it was really interesting because the dean of the college and the vice dean are women. And so like all of these women are going to like business administration positions, and they're very respected. Like they are just as respected as men. And it's really interesting because they've never, at least when it comes to like business things, they've never had the divide that America has. Like they've always, like even when like the woman would handle the house and the man would handle the checkbook, that's still something that's like commonly practiced in Thailand. But they were still so involved. And then when they ran a business, the business was ran as a family. It wasn't ran as like, oh, dad's in charge of the business, mom just makes the products, or mom just runs the register, but dad does all, she cleans up shop. There is none of that. There's a really interesting unity. And so women are respected for being business people. In Thailand, they don't feel like they have to prove themselves. There's nothing to prove. People already know that they're competent. They already know that they can do business, because they recognize that even when women weren't on an equal level as men, women were still always behind the men, giving them better ideas, or looking at it in a different perspective that helped them improve the business. So there is no disrespect. There is no, oh, I'm a woman, so I need to prove myself. So I thought that was really interesting. So that was my morning with lectures, and then I'm so sorry. They gave us. We took a break, and I got like fresh coconut water. It was like shredded coconut. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And then we had lunch. They catered in lunch, and it was pad thai, which really varies around Thailand. Like it's really interesting. Like I don't even really know what pad thai is anymore because it's so different. But we had like this kind of pad thai, and then the best part was the khao soi, which is now my favorite Thai food, because Thai food has always been my favorite. And I was really happy to talk to Dr. Wilhelm, who's one of the professors that's heading this trip. He's mostly an ethics professor who's retiring. I don't remember if it's after this year or next year. But anyways, we were talking. I mentioned my favorite place in Terre Haute was this Thai restaurant called Exotic Thai Cuisine, and they closed down about 3 years ago. But they didn't really close. Their lease went up, and so they moved to so we're relocated to Illinois, and I was saying, I was really worried when I got to this country that the food would be totally different from the Thai place, and I would be really disappointed because I love like that Thai food from exotic Thai cuisine. And it was so funny because I was talking about it, and Dr. Wilhelm was like, yeah, there was a Thai place that I really liked that closed down too. And then we realized that we were talking about the same place, and it was totally authentic. And it was so great to hear that from Dr. Wilhelm, and that most Thai places in America are authentic. And he was saying, oh yeah, that place is really authentic. Like the only thing that isn't is like, the golden chow mein, like anything with a Chinese name is like Americanized Thai food. But it was so nice to hear that, yeah, I was eating authentic Thai food, so I actually did like, I did like Thai food, real Thai food. And so it's interesting because everything I've had here tastes just like that. Anyways, the khao soi were these egg noodles that you put in. Khao soi itself is actually like a soup base, and it's spicy and it tastes nutty and it's so wonderful. It's really rich. And I ended up putting, they had some really hot pepper paste that honestly like looked like really orange blood, like really orange congealed, not congealed, but like gritty, but it looked like blood. So I mixed that all up and I put in like a tiny spoonful, and it made it so much hotter. And I also put in like fresh leeks and little like scallion onions and what else? Peanut. They had like peanut powder, which I'm gonna try to find some because it's really hard to find in the States, and I really like it for seasonings and sauces. Another thing I want to find for Korean jelly recipes, acorn powder. I have not found that anywhere in America. I try to find it online, and it's either really expensive or just doesn't exist. And like in my cooking book, it's like, oh, acorn powder is so common. You can buy it anywhere in Korea, and I can't find it anywhere in America. Even at Hanamart, and I've asked people, and they're like, oh yeah, acorn powder. We don't sell that. Anyways, the khao soi was really good. They had a lot of fresh fruit. I love the fresh papaya. Oh my goodness, I could eat that all day. So it was just amazing, and we got to sit and talk with everyone, and everyone's so open and so nice. And then after that, we went to Doisutep. It is like the most famous Buddhist temple, and it is literally on top of a mountain. And so we drove up there, and then we still had to walk like 3,000 plus steps. It was exhausting. By the time we walked up and back down, which we had a good like hour and a half before we walked back down, if I stood still, my legs were shaking. And I found out that they have an elevator, but I'm figuring out that it probably costs like 1,000 baht, just like $30, because I mean, people will pay for that. I would, if I go back, I would pay for that because, oh my gosh, it was crazy. I'm just such a wimp. And then the photographer was like, oh, will you walk back down about halfway and walk up so I can take pictures? And I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. And on the inside, I'm like, anyways. It was really cool. It was super touristy. Like, we were surprised by how many tourists were there. And it was really interesting because us girls, like, you weren't allowed to wear shorts because it's considered inappropriate for like girls to portray themselves like showing any skin. And it's not really so much on, I said that wrong, because it's not really so much on the women. Like, they're not like, oh, you can't show your ankles or something for women. It's that the monks aren't allowed to see that. Like, there are some monks that will do tattoos if you give donations, and when it's a woman, even if she's like completely covered, when they push up their arm, they put like a silk over it because they're not allowed to touch them. So they'll like put like a really sheer silk, and when they push up their sleeve, and then they'll do the tattoo or like on their ankle, but they're not allowed to like really see it, like see their legs. So they're not allowed to see the end product there. They have to leave the room, and then the woman has to like remove the silk. So we had to put on like these really cool wraps that we rented for 10 baht, which is like 33 cents. And so that was really cool. We got to, dress up for the occasion kind of thing. It was fun. And we went into the temple. There were like multiple sections of the temple, but we went into the main section because we didn't have a lot of time to explore. And it was a lot. It was a lot to see. the colors are amazing because they're so vibrant, and like most of the stuff that looks gold, it's real gold. Like I can't imagine how much this cost to build. And I was surprised that they actually do let you take pictures of like the Buddha, which made no sense. I was like, why would you let people take pictures of Buddha, but you won't let people take like Buddha idols out of the country? Why? That someone explain this. I don't understand why pictures are acceptable. Like you would think that pictures would be the most unacceptable. They were totally fine with that, and we got blessed by a monk. That was really cool. So we all like sat down in front of him and he shook water on us. Although I put wrongly, not really accidentally, put my tablet, which I was using to take photos, and my bag like right in front of him, and so I was jokingly saying that my tablet and my bag got the most blessings because it got the most water on it. But it was really cool. And then one thing that I specifically like made a big budget for was jewelry supplies. I haven't been able to find any that weren't like cheap crap or charms. Like I've only found like at the Jade booth I found some charms. So Happy Buddha charms that are really cute. I have one that's quartz and then another that's like a blue. I think it's aquamarine. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get it appraised. But they had so much jewelry, or jewelry supplies, and I only had 1,500 baht, which is only like $40, and my total ended up being a little over $100 when I rang it all up, and I was so upset. I was almost in tears because I made a budget just to buy stuff like that, and I had to put, I got it all rung up like when we had like 5 minutes left before we had to leave, and I'm like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. And then I ended up being like making everyone late because I ended up having to put 2/3 of what I got back, which really sucked. Because, just thinking like in a profit mindset, I'm like, I need to keep the littler stuff because I can make more with it and I can turn it over faster than with the bigger stuff. But I was told that all the temples are like very similar. They're like all carbon copies, and we're going to go to other temples. So I'm hoping they'll have similar stuff. And now that I figured out everything with getting money into my account, I'll be able to buy it. And I really want to go back to the States, and I want to get this stuff like professionally appraised. So if I do know an appraiser and I don't know it, let me know because I will pay you. And I want to get the stuff appraised before I make anything with it so I can find out, like what is it really worth? Like what do I want to mix it with? Because if it's something, like if it turns out to be like just gold plated and it's like actually silver underneath or anything like that, I don't want to make like fancy jewelry with that. I'd want to make something that can be cheaper all the way around. Like I wouldn't want to use like a cheap 20 baht charm which is less than $1, with like real amethyst beads, and that was another thing. I bought a lot of the charms, but I was really upset because I also bought a lot of stones. Couldn't buy any of them because those were like 300 baht a piece, which were, I think that's, let me do some math. I think that's about $5, but I'm gonna check. 300 divided by, it's about $9. But they were like pure stone, very obvious. You could tell by like not only the heaviness, but like by picking at it, like it doesn't, like especially like, first of all, plastic is really light, so it wasn't plastic. And then like if you pick at it and it cracks or breaks, then you know that it's something else, like it's dyed something. It's not really stone. And so it was legitimate, like beautiful quartz. Some of it was dyed quartz, but it was like really high quality, and I was like, I was so pumped, and I couldn't get any of it, and so I came out almost in tears. And then another problem was, people had offered money, and they were like, oh, we trust you, you can pay us back because we know you'll go to the ATM later, it's fine, we'll spot you. And so I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And a lot of the places wouldn't give you your money back, like your change, because it's all considered donation, so they wouldn't give you change. This place did give change because it was actually like kind of more like a fundraiser where they take a percentage and then like all the profit goes to the monks. So they did give change, and because of that I didn't take any really big bills from anyone. And then Dr. Chandra had said, like, there was someone who offered me, they were like, I'll give you 2,000 baht, which is like $60. And I was like, yeah, that'll be perfect. And that would have totally covered everything. But Dr. Chandra was like, oh, no, everything's really cheap. You really don't need that. And so I only took 40 baht, which is only a little over $1, and I ended up being about 2,000 baht short, and it was so sad. So hopefully I can find some of the same stuff because I was so excited. I'm just running in my head with all these cool ideas of what I'm going to do with them, and just no, there was one charm that I really wanted to get. I wanted to get two of them. I wanted to get one to make a necklace for myself, one for another, because it had like a hand painted shell with a butterfly on it, 24 karat gold, and at least that's what I was told. And I mean, I have no reason to dispute it. And like there were people there who were jewelers who, and you know, they were tourists. They weren't people from this country that were like, oh yeah, it's definitely 24 karat gold, and like no, they had like certificates with it and everything. And there was someone there who was a jeweler from another country who was like, yeah, this is 24 karat gold, and it was, anyways, it had a hand painted butterfly on the front. There were only 3 left, and then one of them was silver. That's the one I wanted for myself, and it was a little bit cheaper. And on the back, it had like stones that were embedded and like hand carved into the back, and then it was actually like a locket where it opened up a little. It was like square, so this big. It was kind of big for, and it would be good just suspended from a necklace, and it cost a little over 3,000 baht, so it was about $100 for the one charm, and I was just, oh my gosh, $100. And so I decided, you know, I didn't definitely, you know, I wouldn't have even been able to afford that. But I thought about it later, and I was like, I don't want to spend my money on one thing that knowing me I'll lose, you know. And plus, like, that's probably about what my tattoo is going to cost. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay for this jewelry that I'll lose, you know, I'll just get my tattoo. I'll give 100 baht to the person who can figure out what the song is. And if I've already told you, you're out. You're not allowed. If you can guess what music this is from, I will totally give you 100 baht. Which I'm not going to tell you what that is in American money because you'll laugh at me. But yeah, if anyone can guess what that song is, who I haven't already told, and I know who I've told. Anywho, what else? So it was definitely an experience.